So, hello to our friends on Facebook. Welcome to Dive Time SA Show 12. We were on air a couple of minutes ago, and then something went BAM in the studio, and we all got a bit of a fright, and then we restarted. So, welcome back. If you were there just now and you've joined us again, it's good to have you on board. When I say we, I mean Greg Holmes, Paddy, course director, and my brother, as well as Dave Ravenstone. How's it to the two of you?
Good evening.
Hey there, Tom, and listeners and watchers.
All right, so what happened this week in the world of diving?
Well, the weather turned, it got
Not
a bit
much.
cold, and we all ran for cover.
What's on the agenda tonight, Dave? And there's Courtney in the background, by the way. So there we go. There's Courtney, and Dagan's holding one of the cameras. He's got this camera. If you're looking on Facebook Live, then you're going to see what Dagan's up to right there. Okay, what's on the show tonight, Dave?
Well, first of all, we thought we'd talk about a little bit of our own experiences, and we talk about what actually happens on when you go stay on a liveaboard.
Cool.
And then after that, we're going to talk a little bit of gear. We're going to talk a little bit about our GoPro setup, so we can film a little bit under the waters, and then we go off to some local and international destinations. And then we've got some FishID again.
Fantastic.
We've got a little bit of a weird fish tonight.
What is the fish this week?
Well, okay, so we're going to start again with the question. The fish we're going to talk about is the nudibranch.
Is it a fish?
Well, no, it's a mollusk. But it's FishID. It's in our FishID. So I got a question. These fish are found at a variety of depths, but what is the deepest depth? And again, don't Google it, have a guess. The deepest depth that a nudibranch has been found. Obviously, this is not done by a diver, it was done by some type of craft or submarine or so on.
All right, what's the deepest depth?
Deepest depth that a
nudibranch has been found at.
Correct.
Don't Google. Write it down in the comment section down below.
Quiz time.
Okay, right.
All right.
Dave.
So, we were talking about it over the past couple of weeks, and we've been talking about remembering some of the things that we enjoyed the most about our Red Sea trip. And a lot of people, when they go away, they like to stay in a hotel, or they stay in some other sort of built-up accommodation.
Yeah.
We call it land-based.
Land-based, yeah.
Land-based trip.
And it really does add that extra bit of little bit of hassle to a diver, in the fact that you want to dive as much as you possibly can. So when you actually go and you actually stay and you live on a boat for a period of time, you're actually going to be spending more time doing dives than you are actually spending in the hotel, going to the restaurants, or anything else like that. So yeah, so we've got a couple of pictures that'll be coming up on the screen to show
Cool.
what we experienced on our Red Sea dive trip. And what we did was we went off for a whole 7 days where we went to go stay on a liveaboard called the Brina.
Wow. Okay, when was this?
Okay, so this was out Red Sea way, out in Egypt, and my trip was a couple of years ago, but
Yeah,
Greg was out there last year.
Yeah, I was there about 10 months ago on the same boat, on the Brina. The trip that Dave was with us, Courtney was on as well. And that was 2017, I think, Dave.
Yeah, I think so.
And
yeah.
So I mean, what we're looking at. I mean, Dave, don't make it sound like diving land-based is terrible. And
It is, compared to being on a liveaboard.
It's terrible. But what we're just talking about is the benefits of liveaboard diving, because it's not just the Red Sea that we can go liveaboard diving. All over the world, the Maldives, off Similin Islands, off Cairns, Australia. There's many places you can do liveaboard trips. That generally means you get on a big boat for multiple days, and it's eat, sleep, dive.
It's basically the fact that you can wake up in the morning, put your wetsuit on, step off the side of the boat, and you're on a dive.
Yeah, and then you come up and breakfast's ready. That's the best part.
Yeah, best part. Yeah.
And then you just have breakfast, and a little while later they call you again and say, time to dive again. And you go again. And you get up from that dive, and it's like, okay, it's time for lunch. And you eat again.
How many dives do you do a day?
Up to 4 dives a day. So generally 3 dives in the day, and then a night dive. So that's another benefit of liveaboard diving, is at night time you can moor up somewhere in a calm bay area and so on, and then you can jump off the boat and do a night dive. So another benefit. A lot of places around the world it's very difficult to get out there on night dive, but liveaboard it's almost every night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm
one
looking
of
at pictures of these boats, and they're very nice.
very nice boats.
These are not 100 grand boats. These are multi-million dollar boats.
Yeah,
Indeed.
definitely $1 million for a liveaboard boat at least out in the Red Sea or so on. So generally, the size of the boats we've been on 20 packs, 20 people, 10 cabins, 2 people each, and they go up to in the 30s, 30 people on there. So you generally go as a large group, and everyone 2 people per cabin, and then the boat then caters to that many. So the dining area would cater to 20 people. The dive area would be that size, and so on. So it's quite an amazing experience in that the Red Sea liveaboards we do it are normally 6 nights. It feels like a month because you're just on this boat out in the ocean, and you're waking up, you're diving, you're eating, you're sleeping, you're diving, and it's just the times you're not diving, you're just sitting out on deck or on the top deck, and you just
chilling, just having conversation.
Yeah, relaxing and so on.
If you have decided you're not going to dive for the rest of the day, you can sit down and have a drink to have, and you just talk about your experiences and share your experiences on that dive.
Yeah, so Thomas Dawes is saying, I've never been out to see what does a lacquer trip cost. If we're talking about liveaboard trips, Red Sea or the Thailand liveaboard trip, you're looking at 25 to 30,000 rand. And that's
What do you get for your 25 grand?
so like on the Red Sea trip, from the moment you hop on the plane from OR Tambo to the time you fly back, it's all inclusive. So that includes a couple nights in a 5-star hotel. It includes 6 nights on the boat, and it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks, eats, absolutely everything. So it makes it a very interesting trip, as far as you can do a trip where you pay for it now and you don't have to take your wallet out.
Really?
Until
So
you
you
get back.
spend the money here, and you don't even have to spend a thing there.
That's definitely on like the Red Sea trip. If you do liveaboard out of Thailand, then you will need. That's fully catered as far as on the boat, but it's generally just a breakfast only deal in the hotels. And you would do a hotel before and after of a couple of nights each side in Phuket or one of the other towns close by. But generally, the liveaboard trip is always a fully catered trip. Everything.
It's not a bad price, and you get all the dives thrown in as well.
Well,
If you like Thomas, I'm not sure whether he dives at the moment. So if you don't dive, what do you need to do before you get there? What courses do you need to go on? How long does it take before you're ready?
So the depths you're diving in are generally in the advanced range. So it's only 2 courses: open water scuba diver, and then an advanced course. So any dive course that gives you a 30-meter depth limit, so you can dive between 0 and 30 meters. That's most of the reefs. Now beyond that is we're moving into technical diving, and it's a totally different discipline.
Yeah.
So an advanced course is enough. Obviously, experience on night dive or experience on wreck diving if we're going to places like the Red Sea with lots of wrecks. But
So a couple of specialities, but those are
they can be done
few or
on the
far
boats
between.
as well. Yeah. And another course called nitrox, enriched air, which means we're diving on a slightly stronger mix of oxygen in the air we breathe, gives us more bottom time.
Cool. Anything else to add to the Red Sea dives?
So one of the things that I liked about going with a group of people, now you saw one of the photos come up with our whole group, was the fact that you went as a group, and most times on other dive trips you will end up separating and you go off on your separate ways. This one wants to go to this restaurant, so wants to do something else. But here on the boat you're kind of all stuck together. So it's really important to have a good cohesive group that really enjoys each other's companies. So on those on the liveaboard, you can have parties, you can have dress-ups, you can have a really good time with all of that. And then the other thing that I really liked about this whole thing being organized by one group was the fact that, like Greg was saying, is that everything's been paid for. And that took the worries out of my mind. I'm a terrible traveler. So I didn't want to have to think about or worry about doing anything that was outside of my comfort zone. I could just go and enjoy myself and relax.
Yeah, as well as that, if you have family members that aren't divers, it's still a great
Yeah,
experience.
you're sitting on the boat.
You'll be sitting on the boat,
Snorkeling.
jumping off, snorkeling on the reefs. All the boats I've had, they've had some type of other craft on the boat. Always have small rubber ducks or zodiacs, and Courtney many times has been seen on a surfboard being towed behind one of those. You sit and you wait for the dolphins to swim by, jump in the water and go snorkel with the dolphins. So
Nice.
there's a lot to do.
I mean,
even
the
as a
water is so
non-diver.
clear that, I mean, quite often we would look over the side of the boat, you'd see a turtle, and that was it. Swimming costumes on, and off you go, swim with the turtles.
Yeah.
Great. Moving on now to gear review. Dave, what's on the menu?
Okay, so sticking with the Red Sea, we've got a little bit of a video for the guys on Facebook to watch, but we're going to talk a little bit about the GoPro and how you would go about setting up something so that you can actually film your dives. Now,
let's start. It's become one of the biggest diving accessory that you can purchase. Technology has got there that you can just take this camera underwater, film, and it's easy. 20 years or 10 years ago, you'd have to have a Sony camera, a 30,000 rand
Housing.
gates, housing,
yeah,
tens of thousands of rands with a light in, and then when you're done with that, you need to get it onto your Apple and then have an editing program and so on. But GoPro has just evolutionized that, and it's
made it filming underwater accessible to a much greater.
You don't get on a boat now where someone doesn't have a GoPro.
Yeah.
Sometimes everyone will have a GoPro.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, when I first started filming with my GoPro, I thought I was going to go out there and I was going to come back with BBC footage of what was going on. And honestly, that's not the case of many, many people. And what I would like to say is just don't be discouraged. But what you need to do is you need to find out your way of setting up, and you need to come up with your own system. So the first thing I went off and did was I got this little housing over here, which would strap around my wrist. And I thought that was going to be the answer. Sorry, I'm drifting away from the mic. I thought that this system here was going to be the answer to my problems. And this was actually a strap made by GoPro. So there's nothing wrong with it. However, when you have it on your wrist, you can't see what you're filming. Okay, so that was one of the things that I overcame. I went and I got myself one of these GoPro arms, like a selfie stick.
Oh, that's not a strap-on.
No, that's not a strap-on. But yeah, you can add your...
it is an extension.
It is an extension. If you like it, no, I'm not going to go there.
Right.
But yeah, so you can put that your GoPro on the end there. But what I found was that I had very shaky footage. The smallest movement that I had in my wrist would translate to a big shake on the camera at the end of it.
Okay.
So what I ended
So
up...
one of the worst things as a diver is you're busy looking at something. Like Dave, if you look in there,
someone
comes up from behind you and then sticks this in the way,
Yeah.
so that he can film whatever it wants
is
to do.
that
and
bad
look at
diving
it.
etiquette?
That's bad
Terrible
diving
etiquette.
etiquette.
Yeah.
Do not stick your GoPro over someone's shoulder.
Yeah, and it's one of the other things that...
It also what it does is it makes people a little bit stupid, and they'll go and they'll stick us right in something and almost agitate whatever it is.
I've seen so many people put it in turtles' faces, and it just bugged.
How does that feel, Dave?
Yeah, no, it feels wonderful, Greg. I've seen them stick them in holes to find moray eels in the holes. It's just it's an incredibly evasive way of filming. So to get over my problems with filming, what I did was I popped onto YouTube and I found a design of a kind of like an underwater gimbal.
Oh wow, look at that.
I could make. Now this is made out of your
PVC.
very simple PVC tubing and piping that you can buy at any sort of DIY store.
Oh, you made this?
Yeah,
made
so
that,
all you need is a couple of pipes, a couple of bends, and some paint and some glue.
I think that's the Mark II version.
That is the Mark II version.
Wow, look at that. That's the Dave Ravenstone special, ladies and gentlemen. That's incredible.
So what that basically allowed me to do was to get two hands onto my camera while I'm diving. And so that allowed me to get much more stable footage while I'm drifting through. On the other benefits of it, each time I could add on to my GoPro Rig itself. So there you go. There's my torch, which I've added on.
Shine a little light on Dave.
Now, this little torch add-on went through the Thistlegorm with me on the Red Sea trip, and it provided me enough light that I didn't need a primary torch as such as other divers
you
would
used
need.
your rig for the
So
torch.
I used my rig as a torch. I still had my backup torch, but what I also could do was I could have another clip on here, which I could put my secondary torch onto the rig itself. Now, what I've done is I've drilled a couple of holes on the top there as well, and that makes the whole rig neutrally buoyant, so it doesn't feel like it's floating away from me the whole time.
Where do we find these instructions?
They're all over YouTube. But what you really want to be able to do when you are building something like this is that you can see at the bottom here underneath the GoPro, I've got the mount which allows you to hold 2 GoPros. And on the second mount, I've used another couple of the extra bits and pieces to allow for my torch to go up on top. And I can maneuver it into various positions where I need it. Now, the other thing that you will need when you are going to dive in the sea and you're going to use your GoPro, you'll get back out and you'll find that your footage is very, very blue. Because all the divers, well, most divers know that
red light first, yeah.
Red is our first color to go. So what you can do is you can buy a filter which just snaps on over your GoPro, very nice and easy, and it's a red filter that you want to buy. Now, you can get cheaper ones, but I prefer to go for the GoPro version itself. It's stronger and steadier.
What's the difference between a red filter and a magenta filter?
The magenta filter you can use in your lakes, so inland and freshwater, because the colors are more green. So your magenta filter is going to counteract your green footage, whereas the red filter counteracts your blue footage.
Green. Courtney's saying green.
I haven't got a bloody clue, mate.
There you go. But that's it. And then also you can also just hold it at the back with one hand, so you can also just move it around like that as well. So something to think about. You don't need to go out and spend a fortune on these gimbals and all these other gear. You can build something yourself.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well done, Dave Ravenstone.
The first like underwater digital camera I had was built into the mask itself.
Yes.
And we were all mad and we bought these, but they were terrible. And the same, if you see a mask with GoPro attachments on them.
Your head's always...
The problem is you're moving around too much. So the camera needs to be steady, and that's why you got it in your hand. If it's on your head, then your whole video, you just get in this movement.
We shall call that the Dive Time 2000.
Dive Time 2000. I like the sound of that.
The
there we go.
DT 2000.
So that's our gear review.
Lekker, well done.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's other brands as well. You know, GoPro is just one of them.
Action cameras
Action
is
camera is
another one.
Intova, there's another brand called Intova in South Africa. It's pretty big. So and they all have different accessories. So you may need just to have a look around and see which of those is the type of accessories you need. And some of those accessories are interchangeable.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go.
Wayne's in the room. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Wayne. Happy birthday to you. It's a big one, eh? It's the 50th.
Yes.
Nice one. Wayne Davis Hannibal has turned 50 and is in the room. It's nice to have you on board, and congratulations on your birthday, Wayne. Okay, let's go off to our local destination now, shall we? And where are we going to this week?
We're going a little bit way past Rustenburg, past Lichtenberg, and we're going to a place called Marico.
And Dave has to review this one because I haven't been there.
Which I've always found a bit strange that you haven't been able to pass by there.
Yeah, what's going on?
Because it's very, very close to Vondergat.
Yeah.
And so this is about a max 12 meter dive, where Vondergat is a 40 meter plus. So even if I'm driving to Marico, I find myself steering to Vondergat because I prefer the deeper dives.
Now, what makes this particular dive site very special is the fact that the water is so crystal clear. All the divers that will go out there and they will tell you we don't dive inland because it's murky, it's green, it's mucky, and we don't dive that. We want to dive by the ocean.
Dumdakers.
But now you offer them Marico Oog. And yes, it's a very small dive. As Greg says, it's about 12-15 meters deep at the very most. And you can basically see from one side of the little lake to the other. The water is that clear. But one of the things that they say at the site is that the water is so clean there that you can actually drink it. which I think is actually quite awesome.
It's quite convenient if you're on a dive and you're
Yeah,
thirsty.
absolutely. And you're thirsty, just take a sip.
Well, hold on, I wasn't thinking that through.
But absolutely, yeah, you could. I'll think twice about other places, but yeah, at Marico,
Hold on, our principal from Springs Point Live.
stand up, boys.
Good evening, Mrs. Freeman.
Good evening, Mrs. Freeman.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, but there's other things to do and see at Marico.
How far is it from Johannesburg?
It's a 3-hour drive at
3 hours.
least.
So it's a camp over as well.
Absolutely. So what they've got there is they've got some camping facilities there for you as well, and they've got some chalets which are self-catering. Some of the chalets are bigger than others, so if you've got a large family, go for the larger chalet, or bring big tents. Okay. But people go there to dive the clear water, and there's a couple of other things that you can do while you're diving there. It's one of the unique sites where the water, hyacinths and the other plant life in there have actually created these sort of miniature islands. And they create these sort of natural overhangs which divers with very little experience can actually go underneath and experience this sort of overhead environment in a relatively safe environment.
So it's safe in that you can still go to the surface
Absolutely.
and get to air.
Absolutely. If you drop down too low and you start creating a lot of silt, you could get yourself into a problem where you could block out some sunlight, and you could fail to see where the exits are. But if you were to be on the surface at some stage and you let that silt go down, the water it settles very quickly over there.
Shane Maitland says he knows 2 people who prod fish.
I'm trying to think who's been diving with.
Yeah.
Who's he been diving with lately?
He might be talking about me.
He says he loves that place. I'm
No, absolutely.
guessing Marico.
Marico.
Shane and I have actually camped there a couple of times, and it's made for some great weekends of camping and for diving as well.
So it's also known for, try time it that you're there at full moon. And I know a lot of people will then night dive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And from the bottom, the water's so clear that from the bottom you can see the moon and the stars
Absolutely.
Above you, which is quite unique. It's not.
Yeah. So that's another reason to go do your night diver speciality, is to go to Marico, do your speciality there, and have the best night dive
Is
that
this
you can imagine.
is this a summertime site?
I would say so. As temperatures do drop, the water does get cold. But as with all things, if you take your right gear, take your gloves, take your hoodie, and you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever.
Now I was at Vonnegut, it's probably about 40 kilometers apart, so not that much. I was in mid July, where overnight my wetsuit froze. When I say froze, it was like a board.
Really?
Yeah, and I had to put it in the water to defrost it to climb into it.
Yeah.
So maybe not a midwinter dive site.
No, I've always dived there. I think the latest I've been diving there is in about February, March. But yeah, so it's a lovely site. The only thing I will say about getting there is there's about 30 kilometers of dirt road that you've got to get down. And a lot of people try to speed down there, get to their destination.
Don't go in your Ferrari!
Yeah, don't go on their Ferrari. I passed a couple of like Honda Civics with their low-profile rims and all of that kind of stuff stuck on the side with 2 punctures. So take it easy on that road. It will add some time to your travels, but it's well worth it.
Our local destination was Marico tonight, and I almost switched to Afrikaans. I almost said Ferrari.
Well, we were singing in Afrikaans
We were before the show on to the Campbells. And our world destination tonight is Zanzibar.
All right, well, that cue me.
You start.
All right, well, so last week we looked at Mauritius, and I thought this week we would still stay pretty close to home and look at the island of Zanzibar. So this is an island, well, it's actually a number of islands, Zanzibar and Pemba, and then if you add the third island, I forget what it's called now. They're known as the Spice Islands. So sorry, the other islands are Mafia Island.
Okay.
So these are islands that are found off the coast of Tanzania, and not far off coast, about 30 kilometers off the coast. And what's made these sites accessible now to South Africans is we've got some direct flights. So Mango Airlines flies directly there, and because we now have direct flights, it's become a relatively affordable option. I was looking at flight tickets at the prices of that, and roughly 67,000 rand return to Zanzibar.
Where
So-
is Zanzibar?
so-
My ignorance.
So if you go north up to Tanzania, I might need to show her a map. So 3.5 hours.
Millennium.
What continent?
Africa.
Okay.
It's Africa.
It's Africa.
Our continent.
Yeah, still off our continent. So, whereas Mauritius, you fly east, here you fly north and a little bit east, and then off Tanzania. So, Tanzania, above Kenya. Do you know where that is?
Yes, I
Above
know,
Kenya. And then off the coast.
Hooker left at Transylvania.
So it's being a 3.5 hour flight means it's not far to get there. It's not a long flight to get there, and affordable as far as air tickets are concerned. The diving there is amazing. Okay, it's Indian Ocean diving. It's tropical waters. It's a year-round destination as well. Never really drops below 28 degrees Celsius there in the day, and so it's type of midwinter here. Fantastic hit Zanzibar. So the nice thing about Zanzibar is it's got a lot of history as far as it wasn't colonized. It was more just in a territory of, but basically they've got quite a lot of history as far as the origins of it. So it's a mix of Swahili, Muslim, Portuguese, and then later on the British. The island was under British rule, but it wasn't colonized. And then I think in the 60s, it became part of or joined Tanganyika, which the country of Tanganyika and Zanzibar joined and became Tanzania. So yeah,
Greg's doing a great job on the geography class here tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, well done, eh?
so it's an island that you can go spend a week on, and then do a mix of diving and sightseeing.
Tanya says she did a night diving in Zanzibar. She says the place is a lake, lots of dead coral, but also some epic spots.
I was going to say, no, you just ruined it for
Oh,
me.
sorry.
With all the
Is that
dead.
what you were going to say?
No,
Sorry.
I can't promote a place that's full of dead coral.
That's what she said.
Many of these islands for many years had very bad fishing practices, where they used dynamite fishing or cyanide fishing, and so on. And so a lot of the corals were destroyed or very badly damaged. But now, with tourism becoming part of the economy of these islands, a lot of focus is going back into the corals and conservation of them. So all those bad practices have generally been stopped.
Mike Stafford said he enjoyed his dives there in 2017.
All right, hi there, Mike.
How's
Yeah.
it, Mike?
So I've heard a lot of people who come back to me and said they really enjoyed Zanzibar. So Zanzibar has got their main economy is cloves and nutmeg and spices and black pepper and cinnamon and stuff. That's why they're called the Spice Islands. But now tourism is starting to take over and grow as one of the biggest contributors to the GDP. So again, this is an island. It's cheap to get there. You can find good deals on accommodation and diving. I could recommend, if I had to recommend a dive center there, it would be Buccaneer Diving. For diving, they're in Kenya as well. So it's a pretty big island, slightly bigger than Mauritius, just white sand beaches, palm trees, and everything you'd expect of a tropical island.
Paradise.
Yeah, paradise.
Lekker. So what, 6 to 7 grand return, and then the hotels would have dive charters and schools
Correct.
operators attached?
Correct. The bigger hotels would have a dive center or dive charter attached to them. So you wouldn't have to go far.
What makes it special? Because I can fly to Thailand for that amount of money.
No. Oh, you can. You
Yes,
have.
you can.
Hey, you have.
I've done it.
Yeah. I mean, we were looking. I walked past STA Travel today and saw for 10,000 rand return Thailand with accommodation.
Yep.
So it's probably the same money, but it's about variety. People want to do things differently. So you may have been to Thailand a couple of times and you want to do something different.
Yeah, you can put that pin on another
Bucket
location.
list stuff.
Bucket-
Tanya
yeah,
says,
bucket list
don't
stuff.
get me wrong, it's very beautiful. It was sad to see some places that the coral had died.
And what's Stone Town?
Lots of good reefs,
so
she says.
Stone Town is like the old town. there, and you can do tours of Stone Town.
Now that's the ancient city.
That's the ancient
wow.
city.
You're
that's
learning
it.
tonight, eh?
Yes,
You've got
I
your own
am.
geography lesson going on here. This is good.
So-
Between your dad and I, we're going to teach you.
So that's a definite must do, is a tour of Stone Town. That takes care of one of your days that you're on the island. So whenever I visit a new place, I want to know more about the history of the place and go
Culture.
the culture and so on, and that's part of it. Yeah.
Well, Tanya echoes you there. She said, what makes Zanzibar special is the culture. So there we go. Off to Zanzibar soon. Right, off to our FishID and one of my favourite and fast becoming the favourite section of the show, where we take a look at the different fish that you find in the ocean. And we've stuck to the ocean so far. And this week, Dave came in and Greg came in, and Greg said, what fish are we doing this week? And Dave said, I don't know, the humbagashle fish or something. And Greg said, I haven't prepared for that. And then it was what happened?
We were talking about both this morning.
We were discussing what we're going to do on FishID, and we first spoke about boxfish, and I thought, wow, fantastic, and so on.
you prepared for boxfish, but we've got something completely
And
different.
then later in the conversation, no, let's do nudibranchs, and we left it at that. And so I went and prepared, but for the wrong fish.
Now,
And
ladies
so
and
on.
gentlemen,
So we're good. We got some basic knowledge here.
we present the Nudibranch.
Yep. And
Yeah, that's it.
I've got nothing to say. I can't contribute.
what was the question?
Okay, so the question was, what's the deepest
Oh,
depth?
yeah. And so some people have joined late. So here's the
Yeah.
question before we give you the answer. What's the deepest depth a nudibranch has been discovered at? You're not allowed to Google. You've got to try and guess out of your head. Write the answer in the comment section down below. Just put the depth down there. Greg did give a bit of a clue earlier on, saying it wasn't by divers. There might have been a submarine involved of some sort.
Yeah, some
So
research.
what's the deepest a nudibranch has been discovered? Put your answer in the comment section down below. We'll give you the answer in just a little while. Okay, let's take a look at these. What are they? They look like disco fish.
Yeah, okay, so the nudibranch is a soft-bodied gastropod mollusk. It's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
And there's over 3,000 valid species that have been found. So that's more than any other fish that we looked at. Although it's not a fish, it's a mollusk. And these start their lives in a shell, but they shed it after the larva stage. So if we take nudibranch, we take the word, it's Latin. And so we take the word nudus, means naked, and branchial, meaning lungs or gills. And so what it basically relates to is naked gills.
Yeah.
And if you look at the pictures of the nudibranch, their gills are external, so they sit outside their body.
So that little frilly thing at the back.
Oh, that all makes sense now.
All right, so and that's the nudibranch. So the nudibranchs, like I said, are very colourful, Tom, and they're like that for a reason. Usually in nature, anything that is extremely colourful means this is poisonous or venomous.
Bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat one of these.
Or toxic. No, I wouldn't.
They look like sweets.
Yeah.
Especially not that guy.
So interesting thing about nudibranchs is that they are found in salt water, okay, but all over the world. They are found in the Arctic. They are found right down through to tropical waters, and all the way down to Antarctic. So these nudibranchs are found basically anywhere in seawater and salt water. I'll answer the question now. The deepest nudibranch has been found is 2,500 meters deep.
So let's see who got the closest. I'm looking to see who.
I think it was Thomas Dawes, but I think Thomas.
was
He gave a
guessing.
bunch of answers.
But I think Thomas Dawes gave about 100 answers,
Yeah.
and he got one right. He
See,
said
it pays. It pays to.
I did see one for
answers.
two.
he said
2,000.
he said
Yeah, 2
two
kilometers.
kilometers, so that's pretty close. So 2,500 meters depth is
Yeah, he came from one.
Wow.
is the deepest that's been found. But generally, these fish are. I mean, where we dive is in the shallow reefs, and they're found in that range. But there's no maximum depth, it seems, for
So,
for
Greg,
this.
2,500 meters, that's past the midnight zone, isn't it?
Dave, you've got me there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what they talk about the midnight zone is that light will only penetrate to a certain depth of the sea.
Yeah.
And after that,
That's
it's
it.
in
You
complete
need
darkness.
some-
So,
And
yeah.
I think that zone is about 1,000 meters is the lowest point. So these little fellas are existing below that point.
Way
They're
beyond.
existing without light.
There's a lot of research going on in deep ocean, and they're finding just more and more creatures down there. At the deeper they go, they actually have been to the bottom of the ocean now, which is roughly
Mariana
about
Trench.
is it 13 kilometers or 13 miles? What is it?
13 miles.
13
it's
miles
crazy deep.
deep, I think it is, the deepest part of the ocean. So a bit more about nudibranchs is they got very simple eyes that can only detect light. They don't really detect any movement.
Well, those guys in the dark see nothing, man.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, so they have what they call I'm going to try to get this right. Cephalic tentacles, and those are sensitive to touch, taste, and smell. So they're the little ones that sit on the top of its
sweet,
head.
man.
So goes
Little
its nose.
Oh,
And-
sweet, the tentacles, there is eyes, ears, tongue, the
That's
whole
it.
lot, all wrapped up in one.
That's it. So with that,
You've
they
got to admire the nudibranch for efficiency.
And another amazing thing about it is these are poisonous and possibly venomous as well. Okay, so they
Don't eat them and don't get stung by them.
yeah. So
Don't pick them up and don't put them in your mouth.
no, don't. Yeah, so their chemicals come from what's called a dietary influence, which means
they
it's from what they eat. Okay, and they've got a way to ingest these poisons and then excrete them through their body. So if they feel threatened or so on, then they'll excrete these poisons, and they can actually also envenomate. In some of these nudibranchs, they can envenomate. So
Sting or bite or
sting, yeah. So
Do not pick
With
up
these
the
things.
nudibranch.
with their
yeah. So the smallest ones are about 4 millimeters, and they've been known to get to about 600 millimeters, 60 centimeters,
Okay.
which is huge.
like
Yeah.
a Spanish dance.
Well, that's it. You know, so Connie can tell you what a Spanish dancer is.
So can I.
It's
a
not that.
nudibranch.
Yeah, it's a nudibranch.
It's red,
Yeah, and
and
it's pretty.
it swims like. If you've ever seen Spanish dancer with a dress,
Yes, flamenco.
Yeah,
yes,
like
it does
flamenco
that. It's
dancers.
incredible.
So it swims like that to get through the water. So the hand signal for nudibranch is this. Yeah, we all know it. Eh? That's nudibranch. And Tom, some people are like crazy about nudibranchs.
I love them.
I've been on a dive where I'm swimming and someone grabs my fin and says, come have a look, and then we swim back into the current for about 5 minutes.
Thinking
get
it's a
there.
shark or
And you're like, whoa, what could this be? And they go, have a look, it's a nudibranch. And you're like, and then you got to say, oh, that's so cool. So some people love nudibranchs. There's people that spend their lives researching these,
Yeah.
and then you get others like, oh, okay, it's just another nudibranch. But
No.
they're extremely colourful.
There's just so many different types. I mean,
Yes.
you're diving and you've never seen this before.
No, it's very interesting. I mean, I've been diving for 23 years now. And it's nice when you're on a dive and you see something you've never seen before. And I mean, that does happen often. And sometimes it is something like a nudibranch.
Wrapping up now with Eco Update. What's on the Eco Update menu this evening?
So again, Dave and I were sitting around going, what can we talk about? You know, what do we as an average diver come across? It affects us, or we affect it on a dive, and so on. And we spoke about coming across. Often you come across fishing line or fishing nets that have been dragged onto a reef, and your natural reaction to that is to grab it and pull it off. And unfortunately, that's the wrong thing to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can cause more damage removing a net than a net fouling up on reef. So you got to be really careful. If you really want to take it out there, then it depends on what knife you got or what type of scissors you got. If you got some type
depends
of
on the
shears.
extent of the coverage of that net over the coral.
That too. I've been on a reef in Malaysia where we had a very big reef called Temple of the Sea, and it was a pinnacle that a net got dragged onto, and it was horrific. There was many fish that were caught in that net and then died, and it took days to remove that net. So you got to be careful. The net, it's very easy to get fouled up on coral and fishing line for that matter. And you can't just pull it out, because as you pull in it, you're breaking more
So
corals.
that's your lesson tonight. Don't pull the net when you see
No.
it. Okay.
No, so what you need to do is make note of where it is, and then go back with a plan. And that's where some type of shears or scissors works better than a knife. Because if you've got a knife, a lot of the knives have got serrated edge on them, and as you are cutting the
Pulling on
line, it's pulling on that. So a knife often is the wrong thing to use.
You need a
on
team
net.
of people to do this.
Yeah, you probably need a team, and then you got to cut it off. And then the other thing is, how long has it been down there? Because something that's been down there long enough has now created an ecosystem for other animals to be down there.
It's become part of it.
It's become part of it. So it's very difficult to see something that looks really nasty or bad, and you want it out, but maybe it's best to be left there. Things like bottles. Often we dive and you see some debris in the water, and your reaction is to take it out. But then you look inside and it's actually become home to something.
Yeah.
Or coral has actually started growing on it. Sometimes it's better to leave it there than to remove it. And I mean, who makes that decision? How you make the decision, I don't know. But if it's going to cause further damage, then it needs to come out. And then can you remove it without
Causing more damage.
Without causing more damage is a more important question, yeah.
Dave, I found all those pictures of Marico that I didn't put on while you were chatting about it. So in the last minute or so, let's just remind you that Marico was our dive site, our local destination tonight. And Dave had some lovely pictures that he brought that I almost did not put on screen. And I can't leave without... Is this you, Dave?
Yeah.
Is this you in the water here? Dave the diver.
Which one? Okay, so that one that you're looking at now was Kirsha.
Okay.
Kirsha's one of our new dive instructors.
All right. And which one's you? There you are, Dave. Look at you.
I was behind the camera, mate.
Oh, wow. Check that out.
That's
Anthony and Kirsha.
Okay, and who's that? Those shadowy people over there. They're on Mafia Island, maybe. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for the week.
Well, we had a question
Yeah, what's the question?
for next week.
Okay.
And to see if anyone has anything gross.
Well, I can tell a story now.
All
That
right.
happened
Well, okay,
to
so
you while
listen, we've got
diving.
2 minutes.
Can you do it in 2 minutes?
Can I tell the story in 2
save
minutes?
it for next week and let us know. That's
No,
your-
I'll tell
that's
you.
Okay,
your-
so what's the grossest thing you've ever seen diving?
Or done.
Ugh.
I got to try this in 2 minutes. Okay, so here we go. I was on PP Island and I was working as an instructor, and one of the roles we had was to do Discover Scubas. And because it's an international destination, we would take anyone from any nationality and any language and teach them how to dive. Now, obviously, we would try and match up our instructors with the nationality of the divers that we were taking. So if someone Swedish would come in, we would put a Swedish instructor with them, or someone German, a German instructor. But when we got someone from China coming in, we didn't have a Chinese instructor, so we would just do it. We would just our
Work with your hand
best
signals.
our best Chinese and their best English. We would go. So I got a couple. We came in from a morning dive, and that's when we were told you're going back out to do another 2 dives this afternoon, and your customers will meet you on the boat. And then you never knew. And so on this day, I got a husband and wife, a Chinese couple, that jumped on the boat, and I needed to take them for 2 Discover scuba dives. And there's something I'll say about the Chinese divers that used to visit us in PP is they were more likely to get seasick than let's say our German customers or so on.
Right.
Just something about the boat and so on. So anyway, it was a 30-minute ride out to the dive site, which is the time we've got to demonstrate the exercises and the skills, because you've got to do some basic skills before you take them underwater. How to equalize, how to clear a mask, how to clear a regulator, and basic hand signals. And so by the time we got out there, the wife was horribly seasick, and she would not get in the water. So then I was left with just the Chinese husband. And so anyway, we jumped in the water, just below the surface. We did the basic exercises: remove, blast, clear, recover, regulator,
Was
clear,
it a
and so on.
rough day? Or?
No, not at all.
normal.
And anyway, so it was dive 1. We had done all the skills. We had been down to the bottom. I had come up onto a shallow shelf looking for turtles, which we found there quite often. And the guy was doing very well for a first-time diver.
Yeah.
And I basically, as you got more comfortable in the dive, you could leave a little bit of space and check on them every few seconds or so on. You're within a meter from them and checking there, and have been pointing stuff out and so on. And I turned around, and there he was, and he had, I don't know, Tom, which camera's on? I turned around, and he had his regulator out of his mouth, and he was giving me, I have a problem sign. So the immediate reaction is get my octo, put it in his mouth, check that he's okay, and he says he's okay. I give him the international what sign, and he shows learned very well. He says, problem with the regulator. So I make the fatal mistake of going, what could be wrong with this regulator? I take mine out of my mouth, I put his in my mouth, clear it and breathe. And that's when I realized we were on a shallow shelf with a bit of movement, and he got seasick and he had puked into the regulator. And he thought, well, I better not breathe through that.
Let's give it to my instructor to breathe through.
So I took a breath, and I tell you what, about 10 tequilas later that night, I still couldn't get the taste out of my mouth. And
Did he try to stop you, or did you just...
No, he probably thought I was mad.
It's even funnier for me because he's my brother.
Exactly.
And that's got to be the grossest scuba diving story I've got.
Right, so your job as listeners and watchers, you need to try and beat that.
I had to chew.
Yeah, we want one
I
of
had
your
to chew
stories
before I
next week.
swallowed.
Okay, so next week we want you back on board for Dive Time 13 next Monday at 7:10. The crew are back in the studio. We've got guests coming in. We've got the usual, in my experience, gear review, local destination, world destination, FishID and eco update. And we'll be doing all of that and more and chatting with you in the chat room. And this is where we want you to start developing a community spirit. See you saying hello to each other now and making friends. That's what we want inside the Dive Time SA room. We'll see you again next Monday at 7:10. Bring your favorite story, your wow or oh my lord or whatever story it is. Bring it to the studio. Bring it to Facebook Live next week. Martha Pina, hey there guys, glad to see a girl, says Martha. Glad to see you there too, Martha. I hope you come back next Monday. You've caught the tail end of the show, but the entire show will be up for you and your friends and fellow scuba divers to view in just a matter of minutes. So, from all of us in the Dive Time studio, let me introduce you to your team. On the left, he's a Dive Time SA broadcaster and Paddy course director, Greg Holmes.
That's the right.
On the screen, it's the left, my angel. In the middle
So,
is the lady who's pointing towards Dave Ravenstone on the right. And in the middle, our Dive Time staff members, camera operators and Scuba Pro ambassadors, Courtney and Dagan, Paddy Dive Masters.
Instructors.
I don't know, which one's better? Which one's better? Instructor better. I didn't know that.
Worked hard.
Gee, that's like the time I called Greg a dive master. Now I know how to upset him. Okay, cheers. Catch you Monday. Listen, if you feel like a bit of a chat, in about 10 minutes from now, we're going to be chatting with Deirdre. The Mind, Body and Soul show is happening. We're talking family tonight. How important is family? Believe it's important? Join us at the end. Join us on Facebook Live on Radio Today or Tom London pages in about 7 to 8 minutes from now. Cheers from all of us in the studio. Have a safe week.